So, does anybody have any idea how much energy the liver uses in the body? This surprised me. So the brain uses 20% of the body's energy, and the liver also uses 20% of the brain's energy. So when you look at the level of importance and you look at how much time or how much energy is actually being spent, the liver is spending a significant amount of energy. And so, okay, well then that drives me to ask, okay, well, what does the liver do? Well, the liver has over 500 different functions. It's made specifically, targeted the main detox organ for the body. And one of the functions that we're looking at is that it actually converts MCTs to ketones. And then it also helps with stress and regulating stress and levels of cortisol, or if you have excessive levels of cortisol, then that can work. Now, the challenge is if your liver doesn't work, then you can have a challenge now with stress, with detox, with converting ketones to MCTs so that your brain actually has longer lasting energy and fuel. The nice thing about brain food is that even if your liver doesn't work very well, you're still going to have some additional support. And then it also contains some additional liver support to help the liver detox that. So if your liver doesn't work because it's dysfunctional or may have cirrhosis, then you're going to have a hard time with adrenal detox and regulation of your stress levels. You'll have less bile production and have difficulty actually breaking down fats. And then won't be able to absorb the fat soluble vitamins. So A, D, E, K, omega-3s, fatty acids, those are all required and fat soluble vitamins. And so if the liver is not functioning, you're going to have a really difficult time with that, especially elevating those D levels. So the liver's function on the brain. Well, the liver cleanses the body of toxins, and if the liver can't adequately remove the toxins from the body, toxic buildup can occur. And this can lead to decreasing function of the liver. If this goes long enough, and if the liver doesn't function, there's less bile production, which means it can't break down those fats, it can't remove the toxic waste, it causes a backlog of waste systems, and then it gets into the bloodstream and causes additional issues, eventually ending up in the brain. All right. So we know that a healthy liver is essential for a healthy brain. And we know that the liver is the main detoxifying organ in the body. The question is, well, how do you know if it's working or not? Well, we have a picture of a healthy liver and a liver with cirrhosis here. And we know that some signs that you have a healthy liver are that you're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy, clearer skin, better digestion, reduced inflammation, improved mood. All of those things that we talked about that help in the gut and the microbiome, they're similar here. Now, if we look at things that aren't working well, we have some signs that you may have some accumulated toxins. So you have dark circles under your eyes, right? Struggle to focus or feel super foggy, brain fog as an example. Still tired or sleeping, after sleeping all the way through the night, you get 7.5, 8 hours of sleep. You wake up and you still feel like you are drained and having a difficult time focusing. It may be that we need to do a little bit of detox work on the liver. Now, something else that's a little surprising is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it's estimated that at least 25% of the population has this. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a condition where cirrhosis of the liver occurs, but it's not from consuming alcohol. And the biggest culprit for this is high fructose corn syrup. Studies have shown us that high fructose corn syrup is 20 times more likely to cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease than alcohol alone. That's insane. Absolutely insane. And the other side of that is that folks who are overweight aren't the most at risk. It's the folks who are not overweight, who are living their normal lives and continuing to have high fructose corn syrup and the other things that are coming into their bodies, causing this damage. And then they become even more susceptible to that. It's kind of like that sneaky toxin. Okay. I mentioned that there's something specifically about liver and brain health. Well, I dove into this and started looking in and actually found several different studies that dealt with memory loss and brain function. But one of those specifically ties in to memory loss and brain function in the liver. And I wanted to share that example with you. And this is that the liver has to function to clear out amyloid B plaques. The liver breaks these down and then removes them from the body. When the liver is compromised, it can't complete this task, right? So what would cause that? Well, if you have cirrhosis of the liver, you have a fatty liver, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, something along those lines. This plaque doesn't have anywhere to go, kind of like we talked about on the last slide. If it doesn't have anywhere to go, it backs up, gets into the bloodstream. And it eventually ends up in the arteries, the gut, and the brain. There are very few symptoms with this until 15 or 20 years pass and get down the line, and then plaque in the brain, and then the plaque in the brain starts to have an effect on dementia. Kind of crazy, but the liver support can actually work well. So we want to make sure that we're actually actively able to clear those toxins. If things go far enough, it can actually lead to brain damage, and hepatic encephalopathy is one of those ways. So this happens when there's a decline in liver function is so significant that it actually causes liver disease. Again, there are too many toxins in the bloodstream that backs up, goes up into the brain, and ends up causing brain damage. All in all, we want to make sure that we're able to have a healthy liver. So what does the liver need? Well, the liver needs support and detox. So methionine is a precursor to glutathione. We know that glutathione is a master antioxidant, so we want to make sure that we're able to have enough methionine in there. We also want choline. And so we know that choline is an essential nutrient in B vitamins. It helps break down fat in the liver and cleanse, and it can also be found in the phospholipids. So when you're looking at brain food or restore, and you're looking at a label in general, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, is this actually going to help? We actually do have some liver support in both brain food and restore, and that's obviously not without design. The next thing that we can do is keep up with the bile salts. If you go on a low-fat diet, bile salts can dry up. Bile salts are the primary content of bile. A bile salt like TUDCA has the ability to break down amyloid B plaques, specifically in the brain, and increase overall brain function. Now, what's interesting with this is there was another study that we were reading about the low-fat diets and the increase of dementia from folks who are on the low-fat diets in the 80s. And so the bottom line is that we want to make sure that we have high healthy fat diets that are obviously balanced with green leafy vegetables and healthy proteins across the board. Next step would be avoiding GMO, right? So we know, and we've talked about that GMO, a lot like some of the pesticides or some of the sugars, our body doesn't necessarily know what to do with it. It can end up with excess things, or it can even be harmful. And this can actually damage the bacteria in the gut. When it damages the bacteria in the gut, then it can actually have a negative effect on what's happening in the brain, and can cause either mental fatigue, brain fog, and they're actually able to track some brain functions by the bacteria in the gut, which is kind of crazy. But we want to make sure that we're able to support that in the most beneficial way. And so the best way to do that is avoiding GMOs. Now, the next thing that we can do is maintain our vitamin D levels. So if we think about what happens with vitamin D we get from the sun, or one source of vitamin D that we can actually get from the sun. We then get that from taking it in through our skin. And then we actually convert, the skin converts UVB to vitamin D into cholecalciferol. And then the liver converts cholecalciferol to the active form in the kidneys. Or I'm sorry, vitamin D in the bloodstream, and sends it to the kidneys. And then the kidneys are able to send it to the lungs. So it's this huge process that happens in our bodies, but the liver is critical in this. And so if our liver isn't functioning well, then we're not going to be able to absorb those nutrients, specifically vitamin D. and it kind of puts a wrench and a stop in that system. So we need to maintain our vitamin D levels, and bile salts are also required to process vitamin D. And vitamin D, we know that vitamin D is critical for liver function, and requires fat to be used in the body. So we want to make sure if we're taking vitamin D that we're actually taking it with a fat source. If bile salts are not present, then the body can't use the vitamin D. Bottom line, again, we're kind of coming back to that healthy fats support the liver, and making sure that we can have some of those amino acids to help clear that out. Another way that we can actually help detox, this is one of my favorites. I'm not sure how many of you have tried this. It's kind of a peppermint bubblegum flavor, but I found this picture of the tea and I thought, well, this is exactly what it looks like after you put in some raw honey and a tablespoon of coconut oil. This is Dr. Tennant's liver detox tea, and really helps support a healthy liver. It was interesting. I ended up getting sick, and worked my way through recovery, got back to walking, got back to strength. And I just thought, hey, this has got to be good. I should probably take this liver detox tea. And as I was going through things, I ended up taking it for several weeks, and I started thinking more clearly than I ever had. And finally, by the time I had finished my recovery, my mind was running 3 times faster than I think it ever has. And I was taking science courses that I didn't ever think that I would be interested in, and signing up for things and reading and researching things that I would have had no interest in beforehand. So if you're able to detox your body, support it with the nutrients that it needs, it can certainly help that. This liver detox tea is one of the tools that I've used to do that. So Dr. Tennant's liver detox tea is a proprietary blend of 100% pure premium therapeutic grade essential oils to help support and detox the liver. It includes cinnamon bark, lemon, lemongrass, peppermint, Roman chamomile, and spearmint. You take 6 drops of this, put it into some warm water, or hot water if you'd like. Add some raw coconut oil in pure, that purified non-chlorinated water. And add the raw honey, mix it up, and enjoy. Absolutely fantastic treat. Actually helps me get to bed.